Hello guys. Hi. Hello guys, this is Dr. Pratibha Mangalwania here. So here we are going to discuss about COVID in pregnancy and lactation. So today we are going to have Dr. Apurva Pallam Reddy with us. She is MS and DNB OBG. She is an international speaker, a lab surgeon, and an infertility expert. You can ask your questions and queries in the Q&A badge in your interface showing in the Instagram live, and we can take any individual to our live session if he or he is having any problem or something like that. Okay, so we have lot of people over here. Yeah. I'm joining Dr. Apurva over here.
Hi, Pratibha.
Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Doing very well, Pratibha. How are you?
I'm very good, ma'am. Thank you so much
Super.
for this session and a very short notice.
No problem. I mean, this is something that everybody needs to be aware of. So, and I know we don't have too much of time to fill in formalities. So that's why we're more than happy to be on the session with you.
Yeah, ma'am. Sure. I think we should start our session now. So I have
Definitely.
received lots of texts and DMs regarding this session. So first of all, I would like to ask, ma'am, can a couple can plan a baby in this pandemic?
Um, See, if you had asked me this question probably last year, in March 2020, I would have probably told you, wait for another couple of months and, then we will probably settle in. But it's been almost, a year and a half. And we as doctors know for sure that it's going to take at least another 6 months for
Yeah,
us as a country to kind of really be, COVID free, or at least, state that we are able to manage it very well.
yes, ma'am.
So I would suggest that, in case if you're a couple who's just married for 6 months, or, in case if you've been recently married, very young in your age, then you can maybe take another couple of months and then decide if you want to plan for pregnancy. But couples also see this as a great opportunity because they can work from home and, they don't need to travel much. So most of them actually want to finish in their pregnancy planning during this time itself, which
Yes, ma'am.
in a way makes sense. So as long as you're taking the necessary precautions, I would just say get the vaccine, even if it's just one single dose, and then you're good to go. You can start planning for pregnancy.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, the another question is, we know all the symptoms of COVID, but is there any specific symptom trimester wise which we can see in a COVID positive pregnant female?
See, honestly, the worst part, especially for pregnant women, is that a lot of symptoms that normally correlate with pregnancy,
Yes, ma'am.
be it itching, body pain, headache, and some women have loose stools. All these symptoms are overlapping a lot between COVID and pregnancy also. That's where for a lot of them, stress kind of sets in. Ki, is this a normal pregnancy related symptom, or is it COVID? With what we
Yes,
have
ma'am.
seen in the last 8 to 9 months, we haven't
Yes,
really
ma'am.
been able to differentiate symptoms based on the trimester. But
Yes, ma'am.
yes, one symptom very particularly, that is with respect to breathlessness or
Yes,
difficulty in breathing, is more severe for women who are in their third trimester, because baby is already occupying a majority of their tummy, which makes
yes,
it
ma'am.
difficult for the lungs to kind of move, or the diaphragm to move, and makes their breathing even more difficult. So
Yes, ma'am.
breathlessness is a symptom that you would probably see more common in women with COVID, especially in the third trimester. But remaining all other symptoms are pretty much going to be the same throughout the trimesters.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, is there any kind of thing which is affecting the fetuses more in the COVID, right? Which kind of things can be seen?
So neonatal COVID infection resulting in any sort of changes. There can be two side of changes that we are talking about. One
Yes, ma'am.
is teratogenicity, what we call that is
Yes, ma'am.
COVID virus. Like we know certain infections like the rubella infection or cytomegalovirus. These kind of
Oh,
virus infections cause physical abnormalities in the baby.
yes, ma'am.
That is what we call as a teratogenicity. But COVID virus, fortunately has not been shown to cause any teratogenic effect in the baby per se. So, which
Yes,
is
ma'am.
why if you are infected with COVID, even if it's a mild infection or sometimes something that is requiring a hospital admission as well, as long as there is no medical indication, it's not required for you to go ahead and terminate the pregnancy.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, lots of female are way too confused about the medications to be taken in COVID-19. So, for the females who are COVID positive, pregnant females who are home isolated, which medications they can take in home
Mhm.
isolation and which are
So,
not safe for them?
right. In the kind of medications that we normally prescribe for any COVID patients, we have
Yes, ma'am.
one antibacterial.
Yes,
Most of the times, doxy is what is being used, and we
yes, ma'am.
have another medicine that is your ivermectin, which we kind of use in order to reduce the viral load. These are the two common medicines, and unfortunately, both these medications we cannot use in pregnancy because these medicines will cause side effects or impact for the baby. And it's because of this reason, we highly recommend that if you are pregnant, if you get infected with COVID, you need to get in touch with your gynecologist and figure out, what medications you can take and not. Otherwise, what we normally give for everyone is azithromycin, which is again safe in pregnancy. Of
Yes,
course,
ma'am.
Pandi is in order to reduce the gastritis and nausea that the pills itself cause. We give you a syrup in order to reduce your congestion as a cough syrup kind of thing. And we do tend to put you on a very mild blood thinner that's like an Ecosprin. Beyond
Yes,
this,
ma'am.
no other medications are safe for home consumption. And
Yes, ma'am.
of course, along with that, your multivitamins like your vitamin C and zinc, vitamin D3, these kind of multivitamins you can definitely take. In fact, even before someone has a COVID infection, for all pregnant women, we are recommending to take these multivitamins in order to build in their immunity and protect themselves.
Ma'am, how much maximum dose of vitamin C can be taken by a pregnant female on per day, according?
So almost 500 mg can be taken without any risk. See, a major advantage with respect to water soluble vitamins like your vitamin B and these kind of things is that if you're consuming in excess, they kind of just get excreted
Yes, ma'am.
in your urine. So you'll probably just have vitamin rich pee and nothing else. So
Yeah.
it's really not going to cause major toxicity per se. With respect to fat soluble vitamins, of course, you do tend to have other symptoms like your vitamin A, D, E, and K. These kind of vitamins we don't recommend in excess, but vitamin C, it's not like that. You can take. If you're consuming excess, also is going to get excreted in your pee, so you should be fine. And all the live audience who have joined us here, please feel free to ask any questions in between. Once we have finished, our regular this thing, we will take each and every question.
Okay, ma'am. So, next question is, ma'am, there are many duty doctors who are
Hmm.
way too confused about the medication in
True.
hospital administration, actually, because we
Mm-hmm.
have a
Hmm.
protocol for COVID-19 patients uh,
Sure.
who are not pregnant, but
Hmm.
in the settings when we get a
True.
patient who is pregnant, we just don't know what to give them. Like we have to shift on IV medication, we have to give them steroids, blood thinners. So what can be the side effects of steroids and blood thinners on fetus and the mother?
Sure, that's a very good question, Pratibha. Essentially, in a situation where the patient is admitted, we have to prioritize the safety and well-being of the mother over everything else. And most antibiotics that way, whatever we give, are reasonably safe in pregnancy. You can go ahead and give. Even, initially when we had remdesivir as a plan of treatment, as a line of treatment, we had recommended that if it is required, you need to go ahead and give remdesivir also, because the benefits of giving that medication is going to outweigh the risks. Now, apart from that, with respect to steroids, it's not going to cause major harm for the baby, because it's not a long-term administration that you're giving. If the patient is admitted for about 5 or 6 days, you're just giving them in that short duration of time. So steroids, again, is absolutely fine. You can go ahead and give. Dr. Amrita, a very good friend of mine, she has, again, asked this question regarding, do we recommend low molecular weight heparin to women who are admitted? Definitely, we should give heparin. We do evaluate, like for non-pregnant women, we know that, you do a D-dimer, and if you see that the values are quite elevated, beyond 2000 or something, then you go ahead and start low molecular weight heparin. But for pregnant women, it's not like that, because they already have a tendency of thick blood, or, they have a higher tendency of blood getting clotted. So for these patients, even if the D-dimer levels are not too high, if they are on a higher side, it's always safe to go ahead and start your basic level of low molecular weight heparin, which is your blood thinners. 40 to 60 mg based on their body weight is absolutely safe. There is no concern.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, as we look upon the value of D-dimer, raised D-dimer value, we start the low molecular weight heparin. But if we are giving low molecular weight heparin to a pregnant female, is there any need of INR monitoring regularly or something?
Not really, not really. For a 40 mg, when we are giving, or even a 60 mg as a prophylactic dose or a therapeutic dose, in this range of administration, or in this dose of administration, the probability of severe hemorrhagic blood thinning happening is very, very low. So, for example, we use low molecular weight heparin for women who have antiphospholipid antibody syndrome on a regular basis, every single day till they turn 36 weeks. So it's not necessary that we need to kind of continuously monitor them. Probably, once in 15 days is good enough. When you are getting your basic COVID profiling, if you are checking your INR and PTA, PTT, that is more than enough. It's not required. That's your advantage as compared to, your unfractionated heparin that way, wherein low molecular weight heparin has that benefits.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, I wanted to ask about the mode of delivery in COVID positive pregnant females. So is it like they have to go for the cesarean section, or it can be dealt with vaginal delivery?
That's an excellent question. I had in fact made a reel with respect to this also, that whenever you are in a normal labor, as I told you, there are two factors. One is when you are in your complete ninth month and your third trimester, that way the baby is too big, so you can't breathe. Even a normal pregnant woman, if she walks a couple of meters that way, she is going to kind of get breathless. That's because the lungs don't have the space to expand. And that's exactly what is happening here in COVID, but twice the times, wherein infection is also there and she's pregnant also, because of which she's having severe breathing difficulty. So when you are in labor, when you are in pain, your breathing becomes very shallow. You're not able to take deep breaths, and you're not able to take sufficient amount of oxygen inside your body, because of which your saturations can go down. Now remember that whatever you are consuming is what is going to your baby. So if your blood oxygen levels are low, that means that the baby's blood oxygen levels are also going to be low. Even for normal pregnant women also who have been in labor for a very long duration of time, we do give them oxygen, intermittently, in order to ensure that the baby is getting sufficient oxygen supply per se. So it's precisely because of this reason that someone who is detected with active COVID infection in their third trimester or at the time, around the time of their delivery, for them, it's safest to go ahead and have a section, not only for them, but for the baby as well. But if you're detected with COVID in the first 3 months or, in your fifth month, 6 months, something like that, and then after another 3 months, you're going ahead to have a delivery, then it's not required for you to have a cesarean. You can definitely try for a normal labor as well.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, which practices should a pregnant female opt in home isolation?
I missed the question. Yeah.
Okay.
Which
Ma'am, which practices should a COVID positive pregnant female opt in the home isolation?
Um, so first thing, most of the times we have seen that pregnant women get COVID infection from their husbands itself,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
so if they are positive, usually most of the time the entire family is also positive.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I'm hoping that if they are positive, they at least have some kind of support, so that they don't have to do the entire work, and with respect to food and everything else. There
Yes,
is
ma'am.
no particular change that we are going to recommend. Only thing we would insist is stay connected with your gynecologist. Get in touch with a physician or a pulmonologist who is responsible for managing your COVID, and your gynecologist is responsible for managing your baby. Like, if we've had one particular case wherein the mother was just about 28, 29 weeks, but still,
Okay,
because the infection was so severe and saturations were so low, we had to deliver her in order to ensure that the pressure and everything is relieved. We can get her into a proning position, so on and so forth. So for this, understanding of managing both COVID and pregnancy, you need to have two specialists who are in loop with you. Continue checking your saturation levels, and maintain a positive vibe, and most importantly, don't stress. It's not going to be extremely dangerous or anything like that. We'll still be able to manage. Do not underplay your symptoms. That's something I kind of have to insist, because
yes, ma'am.
sometimes I feel we just underplay the symptoms, and we kind of tell that, okay, I'm feeling all right. I've been feeling weak any which way for all the 6 months of pregnancy that way, and so that sometimes um, makes it late for a diagnosis to happen, and it makes the right intervention delayed. So do not underplay the symptoms. Be very sure of what you are, and there is definitely no guilt or stigma attached to it anymore.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, many females are way too anxious about their pregnancy. So, is there any indication for the MTP in any trimester of the pregnancy while COVID-19?
Mm, no. COVID cannot be an indication for termination of pregnancy unless it is beneficial for the mother, especially in the early trimesters, as I said.
Yes,
In the later trimesters, like with respect to your 28 weeks after your in your seventh, eighth, and ninth month, in these months, sometimes it can be beneficial in order to improve the symptoms, but it's never an indication for termination of pregnancy.
okay, ma'am. Ma'am, it's like that many females are way too confused about the breastfeeding thing. They are like,
Mhm.
can we breastfeed a baby while we are positive for COVID-19? So, ma'am,
Absolutely.
can
So you can. I mean, WHO has very, very clearly said that you just need to wear your mask, protect yourself, and now we have double masking, and you just need to wash your hands, make sure that the breast region is cleansed before you give the baby to the breast, and that's all you need to do. In fact, it's important that if you're COVID, that you breastfeed the baby as well, because in case one, if you develop any breast abscess or infection, if the milk gets accumulated, that's going to cause more problems. And two, it's definitely going to build the immunity for the baby, and it's matter of 10 days. If you do not feed during that time, there is a higher probability that the milk production itself stops. So it's important that you continue to breastfeed, taking all the necessary precautions.
as the mother is on the various kinds of medications, so those medication can affect the baby or not, ma'am?
As I said, if you're not taking doxy and ivermectin, then all the other medications what we routinely use for a COVID care do not affect the mother. In fact, when we give steroids, it's going to help the lung maturity of the baby and make sure that they are doing well. So you do not have to be worried about that.
Okay, ma'am. As we all know that third wave is going to just started, and
Yes.
so that
It is
breastfeeding still
super, super
it's like
scary.
yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
yes, yes. Absolutely, absolutely. It's important that you kind of continue to build immunity because
Yes,
we
ma'am.
have seen strategically that, in the first wave, it's the elderly that were affected more, and in the
Yes,
second
ma'am.
wave, it's the middle age and younger people that are being affected. It's
Yes,
precisely
ma'am.
because it's just jumping the generation wherein now we have more elderly who are vaccinated. We have seen that a lot of people, even elderly that way, who are vaccinated have very well recovered from COVID, even if they got infected that way. Because we have started vaccination for younger people only from May, and even after that we were not able to have sufficient vaccines per se.
Yes, ma'am.
We don't have our younger crowd vaccinated well, and that's the reason why the second wave have hit them so badly. So coming to that point, we of course right now don't have vaccination for our younger ones. Below 18, you don't have anything available right now to give them. So the best way to kind of protect your kids, apart from making sure they're eating nutritious and having a good diet per se, is also to get everyone in your family vaccinated. If you guys
Okay.
are stay because the schools are shut, and there's a very very less probability that they will go out and get the infection per se, as compared to adults who routinely travel out and who are the carriers for infection.
Yes,
So to
ma'am.
protect them, we need to protect ourselves.
As far as the vaccination is concerned, ma'am, is vaccination is safe in pregnancy and lactating mothers?
Lactating mothers, 100%, even if it's been just 1 day since you have delivered, you can go ahead and get the vaccine. Now, for pregnant women worldwide, all the authorities, national, international, medical, non-medical, all the authorities have given a go-to for pregnant women also. Now, the Indian government hasn't said anything explicitly. They haven't said that, okay, pregnant women should take it or pregnant women can't take it. That's probably because we don't have sufficient vaccines for everyone that way, and that's the reason why they did not want to include pregnant women currently in the group. But yes, as healthcare workers, even pregnant women, we were taking the vaccine. So if you feel that you are at a high risk, if you have higher chances of exposure, people, bank employees who are kind of going out and working and getting in contact with more number of people, you should definitely go ahead and get the vaccine.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, one more thing. Um, is COVID affecting the fertility of a woman or a man?
So there are a couple of studies that say that someone who's infected with COVID, especially men,
Okay. Yes,
will
ma'am.
reduce the sperm count, and is reducing sexual drive, and sometimes even causing erectile dysfunction per se. So yes, there are studies that are saying that there is a probability of erectile dysfunction eventually because of COVID. Some amount of erectile dysfunction and infertility. It's not that everybody will get it, but yes, there is a higher incidence for men. Women, fertility is very complicated in women that way,
Yes,
because
ma'am.
for men, it's, you just need to do a semen test and, figure out if they're doing all right or not. But for
Yeah.
women, it's not like that. There are multiple factors that are involved. So I don't think it's too early for us to really say that.
Okay, ma'am.
Quickly, Pratibha, I think one question I want to take from the audience. Vani has
Yes,
asked,
ma'am.
is there any risk of a single loop of cord around the baby's neck? So we're
Okay,
talking
ma'am.
about an umbilical cord, and especially
Yes,
at the
ma'am.
time of delivery that way. Now,
Yes, ma'am.
what is important is we do not know at which end. Umbilical cord has two ends. One, it has a placental end, the other is the baby ka end. Now, if the loop has happened towards the placental end. So that means even when you are having a contraction, the baby head won't be able to come down very easily. That is, if you're in labor and you're having a contraction, baby's head won't come down very easily. There will be a dip in the heartbeat, so on and so forth. But if the loop is somewhere towards the baby side, then there is a good probability that with your labor, the baby will deliver out with the loop of cord around the neck. So it's difficult for us to predict what we should do. Should we directly take for a cesarean or should we kind of wait for a normal labor? It's difficult for us to tell it in the beginning itself. Only in your labor, based on how quickly or how late you're progressing, we will be able to take a call.
Ma'am, one more question this side. I heard somewhere that the antibodies are getting transferred to the baby after the vaccination. So is it true or not?
Yes. You see, we have been taking so many vaccines that way. We do take a tetanus vaccine. We do take flu vaccines. As pregnant women that way, we do take Tdap as a vaccine, wherein you're taking for tetanus, diphtheria, and pertussis. So all these vaccines, what we are taking essentially are to create antibodies and provide the baby with certain amount of immunity. So, especially the certain antibodies that way can transfer across the placenta and reach the baby, and thus create what we call as a passive immunity is established for the baby as well. So definitely, then that's the reason why I'm saying anyone who's planning for pregnancy should get the vaccine and then get pregnant.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, what can be the major post-COVID effects of on the pregnant and lactating mothers? Major post-COVID effects.
So one important thing that we have noticed is when there is blood clotting that happens, or when the blood becomes too thick, even if there are no clots, the weight of the baby goes down, and the fluid levels go down. So higher chances of cesarean because of that. And there is also a probability that sometimes the blood supply from the mother to the baby completely shuts down without any prior knowledge, and we call them as IUDs or miscarriages per se. And
I think network problem, I guess.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you. Yeah. Yes, I can hear you.
So yeah, as I said, in order to reduce the risk of miscarriage IUDs, then we kind of recommend them to go ahead and use blood thinners on a regular basis.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, I just wanted to ask that the females who are already deceased with PCOD or thyroid conditions, there are so many females like that. So how COVID has affected them?
Any kind of hormonal abnormalities, like with respect to your thyroid, PCOS per se, should
Yes,
get
ma'am.
adversely impacted just because of COVID. It's just that sometimes you might have a higher chance of getting them because your immunity levels are low, and there have been variations with respect to your stress patterns. But both of them are fairly independent. Diabetes, hypertension on the other side, or asthma on the other side, these are conditions that can impact the regular pattern per se.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, that's all. I have finished my questions. There is one
Yeah,
person, I guess.
one question.
They had asked
Yes,
some
yeah,
questions, ma'am. You can take those questions. They have asked some
sure. Priya
questions in
Reddy,
Q&A.
I'm not getting period from 2 to 3 months because I have PCOS. What to do to get my periods? Okay, so if you do have PCOS, you will have cycle related abnormalities, and in order to get your periods, you need to take withdrawal pills or your progesterone pills at least for 5 days. Once in every 2 months, that's good enough for you to get your periods. If you lose weight, at least 5% of your existing weight, you will be able to get your periods naturally only. So, but one of the two things should be done, because if you don't get your periods for 2 to 3 months, you have a higher probability of gaining weight.
Ma'am, there is one person who would like to join us on Insta Live. Should we take her live?
Sure.
Yeah. Anyone can join us live. Please, if you have any query, you can send us the request.
Quickly, while she joins, Amina has asked
Yeah.
if we vaccinated during first, second month of pregnancy. Yeah, technically you
Someone
can
has
get
come. As she left.
vaccinated. Sure. So, yes, you can definitely have the vaccine in pregnancy, but we kind of recommend to take the vaccine, preferably after the first trimester is over, or just before you get pregnant. Essentially, it is safe to take it anytime, but preferably after the first trimester is over. That's the first 3 months are over. Okay, Deepu has said that, okay, he's from Nellore. Hi, Deepu. Nellore is my hometown, so I kind of get excited for everyone who's from there.
Yeah.
This is a nice question by Shruti, talking about egg freezing. That's excellent. This thing. Do you get more people asking you for about egg freezing, Pratibha?
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone that regarding egg freezing? I mean, do you have people approaching you for egg freezing? Oocyte freezing?
No.
Okay. Essentially, the concept of egg freezing is that as women age, the number of eggs in our body are going to reduce, and sometimes it may not be proportional, and they can be a drastic fall. So, in order to ensure that we have the freedom for fertility even at a older age, we collect the eggs from our body and we store them. That is, we vitrify them and we freeze them so that we can defreeze them at a later point when we find a good partner, or when we are pretty settled in our careers and everything, and then go ahead and plan for pregnancy. So egg freezing right now is not an experimental procedure anymore. It's a very well established procedure. A lot of celebrities and non-celebrities also have got it done, but it's because there's a lot of commotion around a celebrity. This thing, we need to do it, and you can always consult us for the same, and then we can understand. On my page in my bio, you have our number. You can WhatsApp on that number, and they will schedule a personal video call for you if you need to have more information about that.
Ma'am, personally, I just wanted to ask about menstrual cup. Actually, I have not started using it yet, but I'm eagerly waiting to use it. But unfortunately, my period just got delayed. I'm eagerly waiting that कब मेरे periods आएंगे, कब मैं उसको use करूँगी. I've ordered a new cup, so just tell people something about it so we can aware more people about it. It's just a very good hygienic thing to use. Yes, ma'am.
I mean, menstrual cup, I think, is probably one of the best inventions, in the last couple of decades that way, apart from the COVID vaccine that
Yes,
as
ma'am.
such. But it's very comfortable. It reduces, any sort of vaginal rashes or infections, irritations per se. Extremely eco-friendly, and extremely cost-effective also, because one cup almost lasts for 5 years. Imagine the number of pads that you're spending on, and discarding as well. The
Yes,
first
ma'am.
couple of times can definitely be scary, but we are telling you, if one, you can ask a friend who's already using it to kind of help you with. That's how I did.
Okay, ma'am.
But of course, if it's not that, you can always consult a gynecologist. You can come down with them, have a chat, figure out. We've had patients who were too scared to kind of remove a menstrual cup, and had come to our OPDs for that. So you don't need to be shy with your gynecologist. You can talk to them about anything.
If I would be having any problem, I'll be contacting you and you only.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I guess we have had a very great and lovely session, and I'm expecting for more and more session with you. And it was
Absolutely.
very, very great having you over here. ma'am.
Thank you
And
so much, Pratibha. Actually, I think I want to answer one question Deepu has
yes, ma'am.
asked, especially
Yes, ma'am.
because they're from Nellore. So
Yes,
they've
ma'am.
asked regarding early pregnancy related symptoms. There is a big misconception that is present that only if you puke more, or only if you have too many symptoms, that's when you feel that the baby is healthy. It's not like that. Your baby can be perfectly healthy and you might not have any symptoms whatsoever. So, and symptoms can start anywhere between 6 weeks to 10 weeks and sometimes never happen at all. So don't worry about it if you're not having symptoms, and I'm happy to know that you're having a safe pregnancy. And thank you so much for having me today, Pratibha. Keep doing the good work and sharing the good information, and take care.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. You do take care. Yeah, ma'am. So I hope आपके सारे questions के answer आपको मिल चुके होंगे. But if आपको अभी भी कोई issue है regarding COVID and pregnancy and lactation or infertility, you can DM me. I'll answer all of your questions. And मिलते हैं next session में. You can suggest me the topic on which I can call out doctor over here to talk with you all about different patterns of things in COVID. And bye bye. Thank you so much. मेरी reels देखते रहिए, मेरे songs सुनते रहिए. Do subscribe on